This shot right here is why I think Aavesham has the best visual storytelling of any Indian movie in recent history. But before I begin this video essay, I think we need to understand that Aavesham is a Malayalam movie that Bollywood will most probably try to remake. Whether the people in charge such as Jeetu Madhavan and Fahad Fasil himself let them try is another story. But my concern is what happens if it does. And that's because the central narrative theme of Aavesham is loneliness. And there's so much of the depiction of that narrative theme using visual language rather than dialogue that I don't trust most people in Bollywood who might attempt to remake it to ever get the nuances of the visual language correct. And to make you understand, I have to show you a picture of myself. This is me in college. I graduated in theatre, and if there is one thing that I remember more than anything that my teacher taught me, it was the word blocking. Blocking by definition is the arrangement of actors in a scene in context to each other and the environment to tell a visual story with subtext. If you use blocking the right way, the way you place the actors in a scene can convey a lot to the audience's subconscious without saying a single word. And that's where I think Aavesham really succeeds. When we begin Aavesham, it seems like a regular comedy caper that is going to be a movie about revenge. But Jeetu Madhavan slowly keeps dropping these subtle hints about Ranga's mind space. When we see him for the first time, he's alone in the urinal line and on the table. For us, it's a sign of loneliness at first that turns into a sign of power. But secretly, it is actually what we saw at first. A sign of loneliness. Jeetu Madhavan also draws a direct contrast here in the way Reddy is blocked in most of his scenes on a throne or higher ground to show himself above the people around him. But Ranga always sits in between his people rather than on an elevated ground or on a throne. When we see him for the first time, there is distance around him. That's secretly not a sign of his power, but his loneliness, and how he struggles to form bonds with anyone meaningfully. The chairs aren't empty out of respect. They're voids to be filled by someone. In her book, Creating Character Arcs, author K.M. Violin talks about the lie the character believes. I think this concept is pivotal to understand the character of Ranga and why Aavesham is so great at visual storytelling. As K.M. Violin describes it, in order for your character to evolve in a positive way, he has to start out with something lacking in his life, some reason that makes change necessary. He is incomplete in some way, but not because he is lacking something external. As K.M. Violin says, in order to make a compelling character, your character has to be incomplete on the inside, and there has to be a lie that he believes about himself.
More happy, Anna.
Not happy.
And it's this lie that needs to be broken by the end of the movie. The lie that the visual storytelling of Aavesham is always in contradiction with is that Ranga believes that he is happy emulating his former boss Reddy. He dresses himself like him and buys a Mercedes, but in the end drives an old car and always seats himself in the middle of the bar among his people instead of occupying a throne or standing at a higher ground, and especially in the scene where he just sits on the ground among students instead of sitting atop a car like Reddy. These are all instances of the lie slipping away. The visual storytelling and blocking is telling us how he doesn't see himself as a boss like Reddy. What he really wants all this time is paradoxically meaningful connection while having the perks of being a crime boss. Which culminates in the final realization of how he is no longer going to emulate the style of Reddy, but rather invert it. This is what good storytelling and blocking does. It takes the central narrative theme of the story and embeds it in your subconscious in ways that you might not even register. This is why you can't simply remake something like Aavesham unless you know what exactly is happening right here.
Odi maga.